Narcissists are not worth it. They're not worth it. They're not sufficiently good or enjoyable. Few things ever result in success with them. Everything just seems to fall apart. It's never worth your effort, trouble or expense. They don't recompense the favour or kindness that they have received. They fail to reciprocate. They don't return the favour. They don't reward you for your efforts. They don't experience the same love, liking or affection for you as you do for them. So they're not worth it, because they don't respond to your actions in a way that corresponds or is somehow equivalent to your actions. You always end up getting the short end of the stick. You end up in a worse position than before you got involved with them, because you receive less favourable treatment and outcomes, which then leaves you in a disadvantageous position, which means they're no good for you. They're not worth your time, effort, energy, money or resources. They're not good or important enough to justify their exaggerated sense of worth. It's fabricated. It's a false claim, because they're not valuable or helpful. They're not worth the time or effort, because you don't get out what you put in. What you invest is not what you receive in return. You don't even receive a fraction of love, energy, attention, affection, or anything else compared to what you put in, invest, and give. Which means that they have a very low significance and value. They're not worth anything. They're leeches, parasites, bottom feeders, freeloaders. They consistently take advantage of your generosity or resources without contributing anything in return. They exploit friendships, relationships, and social systems. They rely on other people to provide for them, while they don't reciprocate. They take but they never give. They reap the benefits of your hard work and dedication. They avoid paying their fair share of expenses or bills. They will expect you to take care of them. They will expect you to do everything. While they constantly eat your food, use your belongings, and never contribute to household expenses or chores. And once you start waking up and begin questioning their behaviour, they will leave you second guessing yourself. They will convince you that you're not doing enough for them. Regardless of how badly they may have affected your quality of life or living conditions, they will always find a way to put the blame on you, and they will expect you to do more for them. They will run you into the ground and they won't think anything of it, because this is what they're used to. This is what they've been doing to people their entire lives, so they're quite comfortable using you. They're fine with exploiting and victimising you without considering your feelings, needs or well-being, which is how they will manipulate you for their own interests, and especially against your own interests. Because they don't really like or value people. They see us as objects. We're expendable to them. We're able to be sacrificed or replaced, because they believe we're not essential and not worth preserving, so they will get rid of us when we're no longer needed, because they only care about themselves. They don't even consider that you could have been helpful and useful to someone else, someone who would have actually loved, valued and appreciated you. They don't care, because they lack empathy and they're self-absorbed, so they will step on people to get what they want. Which is how you should know that they're not worth it. Because they can't even recognise your worth and yet at the same time they're using you, which means that they're crazy, they're delusional, they have an exaggerated sense of their own abilities and importance, so they can't even see that you're more valuable than them, and yet they're using you to elevate themselves. Which makes them very dangerous, because they will target and exploit people who are superior to them and then toss them aside and think nothing of it. So you should not be investing your time or energy into them, and you should not be spending your money on them, because they are a rip-off. They will cheat, swindle, defraud, trick, deceive and dupe you. They will exploit you financially, and they may even remove valuables from you unlawfully. They may steal from you. They may take things from you without right and intend to keep them, which is why they're a rip-off. They're not worth it, because they will deprive you by deceit. They will chip away at you, your life, energy, health and finances. They will gradually and relentlessly reduce you so that you become smaller and weaker. They will remove, take away and withdraw from you gradually. They will make you less effective and destroy you. Which is why you must never let on to your success or accomplishments. You must never reveal what you're doing or how much money you have to them, and instead pretend as if you don't have anything. Act as if you are less than who you actually are. Be a minimalist. Take little action and show as little involvement as possible. Focus only on what you value, and remove anything that distracts you from it. Act like you have minimal hopes and expectations for yourself. Spend less money on your groceries. Spend less money on your clothes. Avoid buying any expensive brands. You have to be smart. You have to show good judgment. You need to think about things intelligently. You need to plan ahead for what could happen. You need to make arrangements in advance. Because if these leeches get a whiff of anything good going on in your life, they will attach themselves to you and they will suck you dry. They will deprive you of the fulfilling life that you otherwise would have had if you had never crossed paths with them. Which is why you do need to be very careful. You do need to be aware of what they're trying to do. Because they will lie to you. They will deceive you. They will bait you in. They will manipulate your emotions. They will impersonate whatever they think will be effective. They will create a sense of urgency. They will be very secretive. They won't reveal too much about themselves. They will get you to invest your time or money into a mirage. Something that isn't even real. Something that doesn't even exist. But they will get you to fall for the trick. And when you try to confront them on it, they will provide vague and inconsistent details. If you ask for more information, they will be evasive. Because then they've already gotten what they wanted from you. And they don't want you to realise that they're not even worth it. Which is why it's good to plan ahead. Because a lot of people these days are just mindlessly going out and spending lots of money every weekend. They're drinking excessively, or they're using drugs. To the point where they're not even in their right minds if anything was to happen to them. And people get robbed in bars and clubs every day. They go out with tons of money, thinking that they're going to have a good time. And then they get robbed of everything. Or if they don't willingly hand it over, they end up getting into a fight. Which is why it's very important to avoid certain places. Because there are a lot of dangerous people out there in the world today. People who are looking to get something for nothing. People who will trick or steal from you. And then rewrite the past if you ever try to confront them on it. And a lot of people are like this. A lot of people that you deal with are going to be ripping you off. Because most people are just getting by. They can't afford a house. They can't afford to pay their taxes. And food prices are going up while their wages may have remained the same. So then they manage to justify doing these things to people. Because they see it as though it's the only way their lives are going to get any better. They see it as though they've got a better shot of working you that they have by working on themselves, and that's the only reason why they're investing any of their time and energy into you. Because they're expected a payout. They're expected to get more than what they're putting in. Which means that if you're dealing with them, you're being robbed. You're being stripped of what you could have been if you had never gotten involved with them. And this happens to so many people. People who always manage to find some way to rationalise it. Because maybe they just don't want to accept that they sold themselves short. They don't want to accept that they could have gotten a better deal. Because maybe at the time they didn't consider themselves to be as good or as valuable as they do now. Maybe they didn't have anyone there to recognise their talents, abilities or other traits that would have been valuable or useful. No one wanted them to know because they wanted to keep them trapped. And then by the time they do figure it out, it's already too late. They've already been robbed of the life that they could have had. So then they just engage in toxic positivity. They dismiss their own negative emotions and respond to their distress with false reassurances. They shut down their real feelings. They smile even when they're not happy. They tell themselves that everything happens for a reason. They avoid, suppress and reject negative emotions and experiences. They pressure themselves to be happy or to be pursuing happiness, no matter what the circumstances. When the truth is that they shouldn't be happy at all. They should be really pissed off. But maybe they were never allowed to express their anger. They had to shut their emotions down. So they bottle it all up. They maintain a positive attitude regardless of what they're experiencing, even though the truth is that they've just been robbed. They've just given their life away. They've dropped it all on a dime. To a situation that is not going to get any better. And in fact, it's just going to get a lot worse. Which is why we all have to be very careful. Before you make the effort for anything, consider who you're making the effort for. Even if you're just wearing nice clothes or you're just beautifying yourself, it may attract the wrong attention from people who are only looking to take from you. People who don't even care if you throw the rest of your life down the drain. Or people who may be jealous of you. Friends or family members who may encourage you to embark on something just because they don't want to see you having anything better. They don't want to see you getting what you really deserve, because maybe they were taught to humble themselves and to settle for something that was less than what they really wanted. And this is just what happens to people. Or they think that they have all of the time in the world, and then before they know it, life just passes them by, and then they're no longer relevant. So then they're forced to settle for something which is not worth what they were before, or what they could have been, and they're left to deal with these feelings of injustice for the rest of their lives. Most people feel like life is unfair to them. They don't believe that they get what they deserve, and that is why most people will rip you off. They will trick and deceive you, because they're trying to make up for what they're missing, or for what they're deficient in. They didn't take the opportunities they had to get ahead in life, to prosper, flourish, thrive and be successful. Some of them may have gotten ahead in their career, but they neglected themselves emotionally. So no matter what they may have accumulated externally, inside they still feel like they're lacking. And that's why when you get around them, all they can do is take from you. And they may even take from you financially, because they're hoping that it's going to make them feel a bit better, but it never does. Which is how even attractive and successful people can be damaging to you, and they may try to take away from you or deprive you, because they're missing something. They never got what they needed, so now all they can do is take from you, and it's why you must avoid them. It's why you must preserve yourself, because just think about the time, energy and money you would save over the years if you didn't invest it into the wrong people. You could invest all of that into yourself, into a business, which is why you must learn to be a minimalist. You must restrict your functions and powers. You must conserve your energy. Be reluctant to accept changes and new ideas, and instead reserve it for something that is going to energize and empower you. Something that is going to give you vitality and enthusiasm. Something that will motivate and encourage you, instead of things that are just going to suck you dry. You must avoid anything that is draining you, anything that is depleting your energy, because it's taxing, it's mentally demanding with no payoff, and with no good results. So if you feel like it's more trouble than what it's worth, just cut it off, because if anything is worth having, it's going to be enjoyable and useful. It's not about the price, it's about the worth. Narcissists are not worth anything. They don't deserve your time and attention. They're not good enough for you. They're fruitless, ineffective, pointless, unproductive, empty, unavailable, distasteful, disagreeable and unrewarding. And yet they're also arrogant, boastful, high and mighty, inflated, proud and self-important, which is really not a good deal. It's not mentally or emotionally affordable, and it will also drain your finances. So rather than comforting or benefiting you, it will only bring you misery, sorrow and regret, and it will leave you with bad hurt feelings, resentment, offence, indignation, anger, bitterness, displeasure, animosity, sourness, irritation and irritability, because they're not worth it. So it's never going to feel good. It's never going to cause you to have satisfaction or pleasure about anything, because it's not intended to make you feel happy or satisfied. It's intended to rip you off emotionally, because even when they're tricking, deceiving or stealing from you, they're just creating something of lesser value, something that didn't even evolve from anything genuine, so they're not really satisfied with it. Which is why they have to manipulate your emotions. They have to make you feel something, because that's what they're missing. They can't find fulfillment in anything, which is why they have to trick you into giving your emotions to them. But as with anything else, they cannot reciprocate it back to you, which results in you feeling mentally and emotionally exhausted. Because they're emotional vampires. They wreak havoc on your confidence, well-being and productivity. They feed off your emotions and energy. Because they have none of their own. Which is how they're always in the midst of some emotional crisis, or they're playing the victim. They control everything. And they leave you feeling like you have to get their approval for everything you do. But they may talk a lot. They may dominate the conversation with their own opinions and views, and then they will gaslight you. They will be passive aggressive. They won't take any accountability for their actions, and instead they will guilt trip you. They will engage in all or nothing thinking. They will make inappropriate or personal comments. They will display this all about me syndrome. Because they're uninterested in anything unless it has something to do with them. They will always find a way to connect everything back to themselves. But pay attention to your feelings. Because this is the most important indicator that you are dealing with an emotional vampire. It reveals that they are leeching off your energy and emotions. You will be left feeling emotionally exhausted, depressed, insecure, or wishing that you had never said anything at all, because they're not worth it. They're damaged people. They're emotionally broken. So there is no amount of affection, love, patience, or understanding that is going to make them better. And in fact, by doing that, it's just going to make it even worse for you, because that's how they pick out their victims. That's how they determine who is going to be their next source of narcissistic supply. And supply is all that they care about. All of their actions are to persuade or cause you to give them supply. They need a constant stream of attention and admiration to support their fragile ego, and they are especially drawn to empaths. Because we're strong, selfless, problem solvers, sensitive, dependable, kind and nurturing. So they will go to great lengths to hook, manipulate, entice and seduce us into their web of lies and deceit. They feed off your emotional reactions. These reactions can be good or bad, as long as you're reacting to their behaviour. They don't care about hurting you because it gets them what they want. It gives them supply, but you are getting ripped off. You are being drained of your emotional energy, because they cannot love. They can only simulate love. They can mirror your behaviour or your ideals, but they cannot generate it from within. And they will only mirror you if they have to get supply from you, which may make you think you're getting something in return. But really, you're not getting anything. Because they're robbing you of your emotional energy while returning just a fraction of what you're giving to them. They're not giving anything unique of themselves because they don't have it to give. They have unfulfilled emotional needs from childhood. So they will only treat you a certain way because they want a reaction from you. It will never be because they love you or because they care about you. The only thing they love is that they are able to fool you. Which is why they love it when you interact with their false self as though it is a real self. As though their false self is loving and caring. Because deep down they know they fooled you. And their supply comes from fooling you. It's what gives them that deepest delight. And that is the only sense of thrill, enjoyment or excitement that they get from relationships. It's from one-upping you. From making you believe in something that isn't even real and that doesn't even exist. Because narcissists can't love anyone. They can't even love themselves. That's why they give us a false self. That's why they devalue you and triangulate you with other people. That's why your perceptions of them are so important to them. Because it's all they really have. The only real thing that they have in their lives are your genuine perceptions of them. But even that isn't real because you're being deceived. You don't see the real them. If you did, you wouldn't want anything to do with them. Because you would realise they're not worth it. And that is something they never want you to figure out. Because if you realise they're not worth it, you're not going to invest your time and energy into them. Which means that they will leave empty-handed. It means that they won't be able to suck you dry emotionally. And that's all they want to do. All they want is supply. And they will drain anyone who is able to tolerate them. Until you finally go no contact. Because you realise they're broken. You realise they can't love you. You realise that their emotional needs were never fulfilled as a child. So they can only view people as objects, and there is no limit to what someone can do to an object. They will do whatever they want to do, whatever they can get away with, as long as they don't end up in prison, because all they care about is supply. They have an inability to care about anyone other than themselves. Even when it may seem that they do care, they don't. It's fake. It's deliberately created to produce a certain effect in you, rather than it arising naturally or spontaneously. They can simulate emotions. It can never be real or authentic. They can't be vulnerable. Which is why, if you pay close attention, you will see that it is created and arranged in a way that seems artificial and unrealistic. It will seem forced, strange, put on and pretended, as though it was brought about by deliberate use of skill or trickery in order to deceive you, because that's all that they can do. They can only engineer, manufacture, orchestrate, which gives it a natural and false appearance and quality. But sometimes it may appear real because they study people closely. They arrange situations or events using clever planning. So it will only ever be fake with a narcissist. They will steal from you, they will drain you emotionally, and they will destroy you. And they won't think anything of it, because they have unfulfilled emotional needs from childhood, so they can only view people as objects. Which means that they really don't care about what they do to you or how they affect you. All they care about is if they can get away with it, or how they are perceived, because all they want is supply. It's all that matters to them. Everything they do is just to get supply from someone, whether it's from you or someone else. There is no love. There is no connection. All they care about is themselves. But even then, they don't really care about themselves. They hate themselves. They don't want anything to do with themselves. So all they really care about is their false self. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Hit the subscribe button to receive the notifications. If you would like to support the channel, you can donate at paypal.me/Narc Survivor. You can book a one-on-one with me on my website. It's narcsurvivor.co.uk. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.